I've talked before about how much I loved Duke Nukem on PC way back in the day, and my slight disappointment that the N64 version was not a brand new game and was instead a tweaked port of the original. In September of 2001, Duke was due for a return to the N64, although this time around the first-person shooter genre was being replaced with a third-person shooter that would see Duke Nukem take his battles with the alien scum across time. You see, aliens have been experimenting with time travel with two aims. Firstly, they naturally want to destroy all humankind, but most importantly, to them, they want to kill off Duke Nukem and all his ancestors across different time periods. Sure, it's not Shakespeare, but the thought of being able to play as Duke in the Wild West, Victorian England and a post-apocalyptic LA sent my fanboy self into hype months before the game's release, when magazines were going into overdrive to pump up this title. I'd read pages upon pages about how the game cart was the same size as Zelda, it had over 30 levels and 20 different weapons, and I was instantly hooked. The cart was also set to contain a 4-player mode, tons of voice acting, and expansion pack support for 640x480 resolution, and it's easy to see why it wasn't just me who was really looking forward to this game's release. When you start the game, you get a good training mode which will teach you the basics, and once you've got to grips with this, you can head out and begin your mission. It's at that moment some of the game's many problems begin. Firstly, this game is almost unplayable in the high-res mode. With this enabled, the frame rate does not just stagger along, it grinds to a halt with anything more than a few enemies or movements on screen. Head on over to the options menu and turn this off straight away before you experience this, because it will sour your experience of the game. With that taken care of and the game running more smoothly, you can begin to appreciate what an awesome job Eurocom have done with the levels. There are huge skyscrapers, buildings for you to enter, and a huge amount of secret areas for you to discover, and many pop culture references splattered all over the place. The character models are also extremely well done. Not just for Duke, but the enemies are surprisingly detailed too. What makes this more impressive is it's not just only the enemies that change depending on which time period you're in, but also Duke Nukem does too. And with such huge levels with open expanses, you'd have thought that the game would be plagued by an insane amount of fog. This is not the case, and although there are times where it's used for atmospheric purposes, it's safe to say it's not something which drags down the game's overall aesthetics. The in-game audio also helps the overall presentation. The large cart size has allowed for a large amount of speech. Non-playable characters have tons of lines during cutscenes, and of course the Duke himself is fully voice acted by John St. John, and during gameplay he will pop out some quips which will add some humour to the experience. He's certainly more toned down for Nintendo, but it doesn't take away from his personality. The game handles very well, and if you played any N64 shooter, then there are preset controls for you to choose to cater to all tastes. Personally though, I'd say to stick with the default Turok style controls, as you have frequent gunfights which you'll need to quickly adjust your aim for. Duke's other movements such as jumping and crouching are thankfully used sparsely throughout the game, and so you won't have platform jumping nightmares like you may have been expecting. Sure, there are moments where you'll fall off edges or miss a jump, but in a game this large they're mostly forgivable. What may disappoint you though is the lack of in-level saving. If you die right before the end of a level, then you'll go all the way back to the level start. This can cause rage quitting moments, and when some levels can take well over 30 minutes to complete, this is not a game I'd expect anyone to play through in one sitting. A Duke Nukem game wouldn't be complete without an epic arsenal, and 0 Hour is no exception. As I mentioned previously, many weapons are time specific, and so in the modern day you'll have pistols and C4, but in the Wild West you're stuck with your 6-shot and dynamite. It's a very cool twist and it keeps the game fresh, finding unique and fun ways to use your weapons as a blast, and the steampunk inspired Victorian England weapons were a personal highlight, and make taking down the game's multiple huge bosses a real treat, and it does give you a great payoff for all the hard work to get there. I'd expect that the game will take you 20 to 30 hours the first time you play through it, and that's not to say it will be an entirely enjoyable experience. I personally found the game too slow until you reach the Wild West when things do start to pick up. After the Victorian England levels, the game takes a dip in pace again before the game's climactic ending. If you can play through it though, the overall payoff is good. 0 Hour is a very competent shooter, but it has got its flaws. The terrible frame rate in the high res mode was a big letdown, and the multiplayer mode in my opinion is not quite as fun as it should have been despite having a large number of maps and characters to play as. So many of you have been asking for this video, and so I want to know what it is about this game that makes you love it so much. Do you prefer the first person Duke Nukem games, or did you like this and the PlayStation's Time to Kill as worthy entries into the Duke Nukem universe? As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and until next time.